This lady said she'd seen some wild donkeys 6 weeks ago, but no tacky.
But
this man said he'd seen Pass just a little further south. And sure enough, just as the sun was setting...
Nick, I see Pass. Pass group is there.
That's it?
Yes, that's his Pass. They are very lucky. Do you see stallion?
Which one is the stallion?
The stallion is 100-meter distance from group. Usually take a stallion always...
oh, yes, okay.
Yeah,
right to
this
the
is
side.
Pass. He's a special horse.
Standing guard over his harem.
It was slightly scary to see an animal from prehistory roaming unconcernedly across the frozen steppes, for it had taken it thousands of years to acclimatize to this environment, yet I had only a matter of days to prepare for the Badain Jaran. The next leg of my journey was a bit of a dogleg, but since I was in the general region, I couldn't resist the opportunity of seeing the Turpan Depression, the second lowest place on Earth after the Dead Sea.
This means Turpan, hiding lake. Hiding means as a night, have moonlight. In the dark, something is like light, like moonlight. Yes.
Moonlight lake.
Yes,
Turpan.
yes, yeah.
Excellent.
This Moonlight Lake is in fact a vast salt pan, 154 meters below sea level, covering the bottom of the Turpan Depression. The depression itself was formed by a ripple of the same vast tectonic event that created all the mountains and deserts of Central Asia. 50 million years ago, the crustal plate of India collided with Eurasia. Over the millennia, as the plate continued to push north, it threw up the Himalayas, the Karakorums, and further north, the Tien Shan and Altai mountains. The Turpan Depression somehow got forced down. This same event also created the climate of the area, for as the Himalayas rose, so they cut off the moisture-laden monsoon air from the south, and what had been savanna turned into impassable desert. Turpan has an average annual rainfall of just 16 millimeters, so it was something of a surprise when Amina, my new guide, said the region had been a famous oasis since the earliest days of the Silk Road, particularly renowned for its wine. In January, the principal evidence of this fertility in the villages surrounding the depression was masses of fruit trees, all bare of leaves, and rows of vines buried in mounds of soil to protect them from the cold. But the strangest thing about Turpan is where it gets its water from. The fields are irrigated by water from aquifers some 40 kilometers to the north, channeled here in an ancient network of tunnels known as karez. Amina took me to the head of one of the myriad maintenance shafts along the length of the tunnels to meet Rupa. He heads a team of karezjes who, like moles, spend all day down in the tunnels keeping the water flowing. The tunnels run at incredible depths. I wasn't about to go down to find out, but you can tell a lot from a falling rock.
Very deep, 50 meters.
Look.
Thank you.
Pretty
deep.
Yeah. He said, you go deep, try. How is deep? Do you go yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
What, go down there?
Yeah, he's saying.
No, thank you very much. Tell him thank you very much. I'm quite happy watching from the top. He wants me to go down.
Everybody wants you going.
Next thing I knew, a pair of waders appeared.
Spare pair of these, that's lucky, isn't it?
If I had to go, Amina was too.
You could be the first Uyghur woman to descend a karez. What do you think?
But she deferred to a higher authority.
He said, women and go down, cars want to stop.
Before I knew what was happening, Rupa had me in the waders and a hard hat, being lowered on this precarious rig deep into the unknown.
Hey, these Gobi rocks go all the way down. It's three-dimensional Gobi.
How is your feeling?
My glasses are fogging up.
These hand-dug karez are ancient. The idea of burrowing out water tunnels came along the Silk Road from the Persians 2,000 years ago.
I don't think I like this. Gosh, that's extraordinary.
There you go.
There's no way I could do Rupert's job working this deep underground. He keeps the water flowing by clearing out all the debris that falls from the tunnel's roof.
Blimey. I wouldn't want to be down here in an earthquake.
This astonishing engineering feat, started 2,000 years ago, is necessary because of the extremely hot summer temperatures here, which would evaporate any water flowing in surface canals long before it reached the villages. I really didn't fancy being hoisted up the shaft again on that rickety cable, so Rupert said I could walk down the Carrez all the way to his village. Apparently, if I followed my nose, I couldn't go wrong. But with 50 meters of unsupported sand and rock above my head, I was distinctly nervous.
This way to the Garden of Eden. I'm not so sure. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
See you at the other end. I hope. I'm getting narrower to like going into an Egyptian tomb. Really messy place now. Just keep going.
Rupert swore this tunnel ended in 2 kilometers. I was praying he was right, because there are 5,000 kilometers of these carrés around Turpan, enough to reach from here to Istanbul. After what seemed like an eternity, it was probably no more than 20 minutes, the tunnel opened up and the gaps in the roof showed I was getting close to ground level.
Yeah, nearly there.
It felt good to see the sky again.
Are you alright?
Yeah. Bit tired, but I made it.
After my underground heebie-jeebies, we sat down to a feast of apricots, melon, nuts and raisins. I could see how Turpan must have been a fantastic service station on the barren Silk Route, a place where some of the wealth of the caravans was exchanged for vital sustenance. The phenomenal labour of carving out and maintaining the carrés was the price the locals paid to keep the travellers coming back. Finally, it was time to sample the celebrated Turpan wine.
The smell is beautiful.
Yeah, I try first.
Amina explained why it didn't taste like French wine.
Like a grape juice, not like wine.
It isn't wine.
Yeah.
Not alcoholic.
No, this is
okay.
made from grape juice. Pigeon?
Sorry?
Pigeon. Bird, pigeon. I try.
Shall I try? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, to the carers cleaners.
Hoş Allah.
Push. Doesn't taste like pigeon at all, does it? Tastes very good, actually.
Fueled by pigeon wine, I headed east 1,000 kilometers to the Badain Jaran, and where I was rendezvousing with Bruno Baumann. Bruno is the only Western man to have ever crossed this sand sea unsupported on foot. He did it years ago, and he very nearly died. He'd run out of water and collapsed from exhaustion. Amazingly, his life had then been saved by Lao Gao. Bruno was on a mission to thank his saviour and had agreed to take me along with him. We met at a tiny village on the southern edge of the dunes, and the brand spanking new Jeep made it clear that Bruno was not going to be risking the foot option again.
A little greeting. Here is one very isolated inhabitant, and it would be very nice to get.
However, Shu, the driver, seemed very unhappy about taking the Jeep across these Himalayas of sand.
No. 不可以，
不可以，这
不可以，
不可以，不可以。
爬山。
But Bruno is nothing if not persistent, and he finally persuaded Shu to try a route that would avoid the worst of the dunes.
这个可以。
啊。
Bruno's mission was to take Lao Gao a present to thank him for saving his life. A tough gift to choose, I felt. But hand delivery to the middle of the Badain Jaran certainly counted for something.
So how big an area do these dunes cover, Bruno?
It's a big sand desert within the Gobi.
Yeah. And the biggest of these mega dunes are what sort of height?
The biggest I have measured was 430 meters. I think it's beyond any sand dune you can find anywhere in the world.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
As we careered up and down mere 10-meter dunes, I suddenly began to sympathize with Shu, the driver. I didn't see how we were going to make it. I was 5 hours into my journey to meet Lao Gao in the heart of the Badain Jaran Sand Sea. And our jeep was, against the odds, handling the conditions. Badain Jaran means celestial lakes, which is an odd name for a vast area of sand dunes until you suddenly encounter one of these extraordinary blue lakes. With only 40 millimeters of rain a year, they're definitely not formed by local precipitation. They're fed by freshwater springs whose origins are unknown. Fierce summer temperatures mean much of the water evaporates, so like the Dead Sea, many of them are very salty. But they are what make life possible in this surreal wilderness. By late afternoon, the jeep was struggling, and Bruno and I were beginning to have our doubts.
你可以不可以爬山？爬山那个沙漠？爬山可以吗？可以吗？
Not so Shu.
He thinks he can make it. He thinks.
No, it's the thought that counts.
With ever softer sand and ever steeper dunes, it was becoming clear that 21st century technology simply wasn't up to it. Finally, despite the loss of face, Shu threw in the towel.
Huh?
We were 60 kilometers into the desert, and Shu was taking his jeep back to solid ground, with or without us.
It's not going to happen, is it?
I was all for going back in the jeep, but Bruno still had his present to deliver 40 kilometers away. And, somewhat reluctantly, I threw in my lot with him. The sun was getting low, and as I was wondering how on earth we'd find shelter in this endless sea of sand, Bruno came up trumps. We arrived at the 18th century Buddhist temple of Alashan Miao.
How long have you been coming to?
After a sleep, troubled by dreams of being lost in a vast sand sea with a mad Austrian adventurer, I woke up to find it was true. We would need camels if we were